So I made my notes separately for every topic, for history, politics, geography, economy, whatever relevant thing is coming in the newspaper or current affairs, that I put in my notes right then, right on that very day. I didn't revise those notes very frequently, but in the last 3-4 months before the prelims, I did revise. I didn't revise them all year round because that is not necessary. Secondly, what I did was that I said that I did not use any coaching's notes for the entire year, but I relied on websites to cover the prelims relevant information daily. So the daily current affairs that is coming, I made notes out of those in my Evernote, and then what I did was that 15 questions daily from whatever website you want to do on current affair and make those notes. And that way, by the day of the exam, you should have completed 6,000 objective questions for the entire year and made notes out of those and revised those notes. Other than that, there is enough conventional wisdom available online for the book list that needs to be covered for the prelims. That was the core strategy. Secondly, how do you attempt the paper? You attempt the paper in 3 iterations. In the first iteration, you do those questions, you mark those questions which you are entirely sure of. They come to around 40 to 45 or 50 questions, or at max 55 questions. In the first iteration itself, you mark those questions which you are dicey about. I mean, you're 50-50 sure or 60-40, 70-30 kind of surety. As well as those questions which you are completely unsure of, you will strike them out right away and you will never look at them in the paper again. So the idea is that you have to mark 50 questions, 55 questions in the first iteration, 20 to 25 questions in the second iteration, and if there are leftover questions to reach the benchmark of 85 to 90 questions, then you will mark them in the third iteration. Your target should be to finish 85 to 90 questions in 2 hours and solve the paper in 3 iterations. That's it. So that is how you deal with the negative marking, and never ever make guesses for 5-6 questions. If you're going to make guesses, make them for 20 to 30 questions. That way your probabilistic benefit, or the probability of you benefiting, will increase.
Yes, I think very rightly pointed out. And Abhishek ji, taking notice of your whatever observation you have made, in KSG we provide to our classroom program students daily tests, and in which we provide them 15 to 20 questions related to current affairs, related to NCRTs and whatnot. Now, my second question is, though you are from engineering background and CSAT is like a cakewalk for you, but then these days there are other students who are for humanities and those who find it difficult to work in the CSAT. So what is your advice for those students who find it difficult for CSAT? Because I'm very sure that engineers have a specific I would not say edge, but they have some expertise because of their earlier career in mathematics and reasoning and all that. So what is your advice to the future aspirants for dealing with the CSAT paper? Because these days, the paper of CSAT is going tougher day by day.
I've noticed that it is going tougher compared to 2015-16. It has become tougher. There's no doubt about that. However, I should be completely honest in that I did not do any preparation for CSAT. I went right away to the paper and it could have been cleared for me. So I would refrain from giving any specific advice because I'm not the expert in that, or I have no exposure in that. But what I would say is that if you are weak at it, practice. As simple as that. Refer the previous year's papers, identify the trend of questions, identify the topics which you are weak or strong at, and then practice. Other than that, I'll refrain from saying anything.
Yeah, I think this is a wonderful advice that you have to practice in order to hone your skill in which you are good at.
First of all, in my opening remarks, I mentioned that my interest in the subject matter gradually increased. So the way it worked for me was I was highly interested in history and less interested in geography. Geography used to be the point which was my speed breaker in my preparation. I was going at fast rate, and when it came to geography for mains or for prelims, it used to be my speed breaker. So I had to deal with it tactfully. But at the end of the day, sir, it is a competitive exam, and you have to devote time on subjects based on their weightage. Right. So I gave relatively less time for art and culture as well as world history. I relied on the material of previous year selected candidates rather than going through hefty books, because that was not required competitively. If I'm interested in it, I can read it after the exam. That's a different thing. So to be completely honest, modern history is relatively stronger for me than world history and art and culture. And if you look at the previous year's questions, the questions that are being asked from the culture aspect are becoming more generalistic rather than specific. So you can refer to standard textbooks, devote less time, refer to standard notes, rather than going into depth of those things. That is how I would advise the candidates to deal with these subjects.
One question students are asking, which is related to NCRTs, like whether you have read NCRTs or you have read the older versions of the NCRTs or the newer versions. What is your take on this? Which
I would say
will
that
be better for the preparation?
I would say that, dear candidates, kindly don't take NCRTs lightly. Don't say, oh, school kids reach this thing and we are above those. Don't take that approach. That is fallacious. And there can be no blanket statement regarding reading old or new NCRTs. You have to make a combination of it. See, what I did was for art and culture and ancient history. I read the NCRT by Sri Ram Sharan Sharma, Ancient India. That is very good. That will help you a lot. Read it multiple times, cover to cover. In prelims as well as mains, it will help you. And for medieval history, read the NCRT by Sri Satish Chandra selectively, not the entire book, because it has a lot of history about battles and all those things. That will not help you. But the chapters on economic significance will help you. Now, people do read Mr. Bipin Chandra's NCRT for modern history. You could do that, or I read Spectrum by Mr. Rajiv Ahir, and only once in my entire preparation did I read Bipin Chandra's India's Struggle for Independence. I never revised that book. Spectrum was more than enough for me. So now this was about the old NCRTs. But new NCRTs are also good. You have to religiously finish, however uninteresting it might sound, you have to religiously finish geography's NCRT, 4 NCRTs of 11th and 12th class, along with Leong. If you have the time, you can go through the 9th and 10th as well. They are good books. They cannot be trivialized. They are good books. But you have to make a combination regarding what NCRTs you will choose and what not. Some people also refer the NCRTs for art and culture. I personally did read them once, but I did not revise them. I went for Mr. Nitin Singhania's notes.